Hello and welcome to another edition of Currently in Quincy. I'm Joe Catalano. Today, classical guitarist Fred Springer is joining us. We'll talk about a free concert that's coming up in Quincy next week. First, though, we take a look at the weather and the news for you. Currently in Quincy, it's nice, lots of sunshine. It's 33 degrees right now. We're headed for the upper 30s with abundant sunshine and light winds this afternoon. Might do a little defrosting. It'll refreeze tonight, unfortunately. Partly cloudy this evening. Lows drop off to the upper teens. Really not a bad weekend for the President's Day weekend tomorrow. A mix of sun and clouds, even a little warmer with highs tomorrow into the lower 40s. Beautiful on Sunday, lots of sunshine, right around 40 degrees, and still mild here on President's Day Monday. It'll be cloudy, but it'll stay dry with highs Monday into the low 40s. Looks like it'll be staying dry actually right through next Wednesday. But again, sunshine, 33 in Quincy right now. Checking out the news for you today, Quincy Mayor Thomas Koch is having an appraisal done on the former Eastern Nazarene College property in Wollaston with the intent of buying that 21-acre site. During his State of the City address this past Monday night at Quincy High School, the mayor said he wants to purchase the property, then engage the public in determining its future use.
So tonight I announce the city's intention to purchase the property, so we can engage in an extensive community process to determine future uses for the campus. The college has been informed of our interest. In the coming months, we'll bring the neighborhood and broader community together to begin that planning process. And I'm excited by the potential by this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I believe deeply that a plan is out there in our collective imaginations that protects the neighborhood and creates a wonderful community asset. The neighborhood and our community deserves no less, so let's get working.
Mayor said Quincy playing fields, maybe the library. He also envisioned some 55 and older housing on the property and says an earlier appraisal of between $30 and $40 million is unrealistic. ENC Crane recently withdrew an offer to purchase the property without any explanation. During his speech on Monday night, the mayor reiterated his plans to create an Adams Presidential Center and Performing Arts Center at the current site of the Monroe Building on Hancock Street in Quincy Center. Koch says he envisions the Performing Arts Center as a space for both professional and community events.
It's not going to be a typical auditorium style, because we don't want to restrict ourselves. We've had a number of experts in, Joe, who've said you want to do a flat floor with perhaps in the back some balcony or mezzanine, but that allows you to use that space for all kinds of uses. So it's not restricted purely for, a show or a movie. The sloped floors really restrict you. So, if you have, for example, if you have I know we've talked about this in the past, but if you have a professional comedian come in, you don't people like to be at high tops, and, it's a better situation. If we're having an event for the Adams Presidential Center, you could actually have a dinner or a gala right in the same building in that space. So we're trying to be mindful not to restrict ourselves, to keep it as versatile really as possible, to do as much as we can with the space.
Mayor says the Adams Presidential Center would be responsible for funding their own exhibit once the new building is completed. He says the current Monroe Building would have to be torn down to create this new center. A Citizens Advisory Committee will be revived to provide public input into the creation of this new center. Closing arguments are being held today in Norfolk Superior Court in Dedham regarding the case of the pay raises for the mayor and city councilors. Quincy Citizens for Fair Raises is arguing that the printed names of almost 1,400 people who signed a petition to repeal the raises should have been certified by the Quincy Board of Registrars. The city contends the signatures were illegible and that state law does not require them to use the printed names. The citizens group was trying to get a question on last November's ballot asking if voters wanted to repeal those raises, but since that time, the new city council has proposed ordinances to repeal the raises. Those are now under review. The city council pay raises took effect this year. The mayoral pay increase would take effect in 2028. The Quincy Police Department is just about moved into the new public safety complex. All but the patrol division are now operating out of the new building on C Street, and patrol officers will be moving in there very shortly. This past week, several large trees were removed from in front of the old building as the city prepares to tear that building down. A new park dedicated to first responders will be created at the site of the old building. Now, the fire department's administration and the Quincy Emergency Management Department will also be moving into the new building, and a public dedication ceremony will be held in the spring. This week, the city of Quincy asked the state's highest court to allow the installation of bronze statues of Saints Michael and Florian at the outside entrance to the new public safety complex. The city is asking the court to protect its freedom to honor police officers and firefighters. The city says the saints are longtime symbols of support for police officers and firefighters. A lower court did approve an injunction preventing the statue's installation after a group of citizens argued that the statues violate the constitutional separation of church and state. Both sides appealed to the Supreme Court, which has agreed to hear the case. The statues were cast in Italy. They're currently sitting in storage. Two bills are being debated at the State House that would regulate the use of artificial intelligence in elections. Now, one measure would ban artificial intelligence in campaign ads 90 days before an election, and the other one would require campaigns to disclose the use of AI in any political ads. In an interview with me earlier this week, State Representative Tacky Chan of Quincy says the legislation is aimed at protecting election integrity.
Absolutely. In campaigns is where you're going to see it the most, where, it's entirely possible you might actually see me as an AI someplace saying just absolutely nasty things about people, or inaccurately state a position or a vote I've taken, and the odds are good that you're going to believe it.
House Speaker Ron Mariano of Quincy says as AI continues to reshape the economy and our daily lives, lawmakers have a responsibility to ensure that AI does not further the spread of misinformation in politics. The bills passed the House with bipartisan support this week, and they now head to the Senate. Well, the Quincy Band Boosters Club is celebrating a successful fundraiser for Father Bill's and Mainspring in Quincy. The club recently donated 700 pounds of prepared soup to the Yawkey Housing Resource Center in Quincy. That drive also raised $1,500 for the Quincy Band and Color Guard Boosters Club. That will help fund music lesson scholarships and transportation costs for the Quincy North Quincy Marching Band and Color Guard. It's our check of news for you today. Coming up, we will learn about a classical guitar concert coming up at a Quincy church next week. That's next. Welcome back. Today on the program, we're very happy to introduce to you classical guitarist Fred Springer of the EKS Music School here in Quincy, putting on a free concert next Saturday at St. Chrysostom's Episcopal Church right in Wollaston. Fred, good to see you.
Thanks, Joe, for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Great to see you.
Learn a little bit about yourself, about the school, and about the concert.
Yeah.
A little different here on the program, so we're happy to talk about classical music.
Oh, yeah.
Before we talk about that, tell me about Fred Springer. What's your story? How did you arrive here in Quincy?
Well, I've been teaching at EKS Music School for a little over 4 years now.
Okay.
But I first moved to Boston in 2021. It's a long story. I'm originally from Florida.
Oh.
And so I studied music in Texas and Georgia, and graduated right as the pandemic hit. So then bounced around for a couple of years, and then landed in Boston.
Okay.
So I moved up to start working with a nonprofit that's centered in Allston Brighton called the Cathara Project. We do lessons and classes at no cost to families, like underserved youth in Allston Brighton areas.
I see.
And I also got connected with Elises Kwan at the EKS school,
Sure.
and I've been working there for a few years now. So.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
So you have two loves, it sounds like.
Yes.
Classical music and teaching.
That's right.
Is that
That's
right?
right. Yeah. It's I taught during my studies but especially since graduating, it's been, a really fulfilling thing as far as an occupation goes to get to, help students kind of realize their potential on instruments or just with music in general, and help them become more expressive and more in touch with their human side of things, and also help them work and get better and see results and perform in concerts themselves. So it's a really rewarding pursuit for me.
Yeah. Do you come from a musical family, Fred?
Certainly music lovers.
Okay.
Both my parents have a wide variety of sort of musical influences. Neither of them play instruments, but they instilled a love of music in me from an early age, and then were very supportive as I got into studying myself. And I started with the electric guitar and playing rock and roll and things like that, as most do. And then eventually in high school, actually, I heard classical guitar and just fell in love.
Really?
And it was off to the races from there.
Okay. What is it about classical guitar that you love?
Oh, it's hard to say, but there's this, I think, a sense of intimacy that I really engage with. It has a power to sort of draw us in. The guitar, it's not a particularly loud instrument, especially the classical or acoustic guitar.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, what is classical guitar? When I think of classical music, I think of symphonic music, right?
Yeah, totally.
Not guitar so much. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, but it has a really kind of rich history, and it stems from early instruments like the vihuela, or the lute is the one that most of us know now. These early plucked strings, but the classical guitar can refer to genre, so basically what kind of music we play, whether it's from the classical period or Baroque music like Bach, or later Impressionism, Debussy, and things like that. So these kind of classics of the classical music repertoire. But it is a little bit different in its construction. So the strings, most of the time, the top three are nylon, or like a plastic, instead of steel. So if you think of John Denver, or somebody playing sort of steel string guitar, singing along with it, that has a much kind of brighter, louder sound, and the classical guitar is a little softer, a little sweeter.
Okay.
Again, kind of has that intimate sound that draws you into it.
Yeah. Can you play classical guitar on an electric guitar?
Yeah, I think, again, the music can be played on different sorts of instruments, but to me, and the classical guitar, that history evolved throughout Europe, and then especially took hold in Spain, and the construction of the modern guitar that we play now, a lot of that came out of both Vienna, but especially Spain, with the body shape and the strings like they are.
I see.
And so it's also connected to some Spanish history and repertoire, the flamenco tradition as well, of course. Yeah. So I think for a while, it was kind of considered the classical guitar or the Spanish guitar. It was just another name for it. In the 20th century, when artists like Andres Segovia sort of brought the guitar into the concert hall where symphonies would play, or pianists, he sort of helped bring it to a wider audience and elevate it to a status of the concert hall.
But was there pushback from the quote-unquote traditional musicians, the violinists?
I mean, maybe. I think at the time it was different. One of the big things that he did, and there were many other guitarists too who were performing. Some South American guitarists like Maria Luisa Anido was a big one. She toured all around the world. Julian Bream from England a little bit later. One thing that they did was they commissioned new pieces from composers, but they also played traditional repertoire on the guitar. So
we can do it this way too, right?
Yeah, they took things like violin pieces or pieces written for the cello or the piano, and sort of adapted them to be played on the guitar.
Neat.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's just a really great thing. I still remember the first piece that I really heard of the classical guitar was actually originally written for the piano.
For the piano.
Yeah. So it's famous. It was made famous sort of with interpretations on the guitar.
Yeah.
It's called Asturias or Leyenda by Isaac Albéniz, who was a Spanish pianist. But it's just a kind of classic piece now, and even Albéniz himself was thinking of the guitar as he wrote it, sort of, emulating that on the keyboard.
Neat.
Yeah.
Now you yourself have performed all over the world, right?
I have. I've been lucky to be able to travel some with the instrument, and both for study and for performing.
Yeah.
I've lived in different places in the U.S., but I've traveled to Canada or places in Europe like Switzerland for music festivals and had some performances through there.
Sure.
My mother's family is from Argentina.
Okay.
So as I've gone down, it's been a while now, but the last time I was there was 2019, and I performed a little bit there too. So it's been, I often consider myself just so lucky to be able to share this kind of music and present concerts in different places.
Well, it's such a young age too, Fred. Quite honestly, if you think about it, people spend a lifetime trying to perfect this medium, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to perform to audiences.
Sure.
You've done it still in your 20s.
It's a lifetime pursuit, of course, but I consider myself lucky, and a lot of the opportunities came through, of course, some hard work, but good connections. And, the people that I studied with, my professor in Texas, Adam Holzman, who's a great American guitarist, and the man I studied with in Columbus, Georgia, Dr. Andrew Zone, also, a composer and performer in his own right, recording artist. So, I've been lucky to maintain relationships with them and be able to play at all kinds of spots.
Yep.
So
and you have your very own recording coming out next week, right?
Yes.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So on Tuesday, I'll release this recording. It's a short, I'm calling it an EP, but it's a shorter CD of 5 tracks.
Okay.
And it's going to be just a digital release, but I'm very excited. It's some recordings that I've made over the last year or so, a good array of music, spanning from the Renaissance until like 2018, so a solid 400 plus years.
Yeah, and 5 songs.
Of music.
Wow.
Yeah, we cover a lot of ground. But it's some of my favorite pieces that I've played in the past, and a piece that my friend wrote for me.
Oh, nice.
In 2018, a great guitarist, right before we left Texas.
I see.
So it's an exciting thing.
Is this your first recording that
Yeah,
you're
I've
releasing
had-
to the public?
Yeah, I've had some singles, so single tracks that have come out, a couple of which will appear on the album, but this is sort of my first, fuller length.
Well, congratulations, first
Thank
of all.
you, thanks.
What's it called?
It's called Moon Tides.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that one of the songs also?
It's not.
No,
It's actually, it's a funny story, kind of, Joe. There's a common joke that I make as just, one of those life bits that you can do is when somebody says a phrase or a couple words that I find particularly funny, I often say like, oh, well, that was the name of my first album. So if you said like, I'm endlessly trudging through the snow, I'll say, oh, Endlessly Trudging. That's the name of my first album.
All right.
And it was with a couple of friends of mine. We were on a balcony one night, and just somebody or something came up, and they said the word Moon Tides, and I made the joke. And after a while, and when I was getting ready to release this, I said, well, wait a minute, that's kind of an
cool
interesting
name.
title. Yeah,
Okay.
and the last piece, the piece I mentioned that was written by a friend of mine. His name is Razvan Bezna. He was my fellow compatriot at the University of Texas. We were the 2 people in our program for our 4 years there, like in the class of 2018.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We played in duo, and we're still close and,
Nice.
and remain in touch. He's from Canada. But he wrote a piece, it's called The Bungalows, and it actually contains a quote from Clair de Lune by Debussy, which, that title means Light of the Moon. And so there's a loose moon connection,
right,
so
all
I
right.
felt like solid enough about having that Moon Tides as the title.
Well, moon tides are a real thing, as you know.
Yeah.
Lunar tides can
Definitely.
be quite devastating, actually, in some cases.
Absolutely. And I'm a huge fan of the moon. Anyone who knows me knows that if we're walking around at night, anytime I see it, especially when it's getting near full, I'm always like, oh my gosh, look, there it is. So,
You'll be
it's
performing
cool.
it live, right, for your release next week?
Yes, yeah, on Tuesday, which is the day that the album comes out.
Yep.
I'm going to have a show in Cambridge at the Lily Pad,
Okay.
which is a great venue. It's me, and I'm going to be joined by a few other musicians, a few other groups, some awesome folks. Rayleigh Beggs, a duo electric guitar and voice called Saint Boneface, an amazing early music trio called the Pandora Consort, 3 singers, And then my good friend Deshaun and I play in duo. He's a flute player. So we have a duo called Duo Fresh.
Okay.
And so we'll play a couple pieces, and I'll play some solo at the end.
Yeah,
too.
fun.
Yeah.
But for folks who can't make that,
Yes.
you're right here in Quincy.
Right around the corner.
Yeah, February 21st, 4 p.m., St. Chrysostom's Church in Wollaston. It's going to be called Encounter, Music for Here and Now.
That's right.
Yeah, what's going on?
So this is a sort of broader, bigger solo program that I've performed a little bit so far, but I'm excited now to perform it more publicly. I'm going to do a concert next Saturday, as you said, the 21st, and it's a really kind of diverse array of music, and I'm really excited about these pieces. There's so many of them, you know, I've known and loved for a long time, some of which I had played before and some of which I learned more recently. But it's an exciting, you know, day of live music. The title Encounter comes from this idea of, you know, the kind of quality of live music to bring us into a space and the sort of here and now of it all. And, you know, no matter if the music was written yesterday or it's completely improvised or 400 years ago, you know, there's an immediacy to it.
Yep.
There's a level of connection that is brought by live performance. So
That's how people are experiencing it
Yeah.
at that particular moment
Definitely.
in time, right?
And that really resonates with me. That's one of the things I love most about
Yes.
performing or listening or just being a part of any encounter like
Yes.
that. So it's an exciting thing. I'm actually going to have at this Quincy concert a couple of my students.
You have an opening act.
Yes,
Yeah.
from EKS, which is a music school just up the road,
Yeah.
just up from Quincy Center. My student Megana and another student Eden are going to play a few pieces in the beginning,
Wow.
just to kind of warm up the crowd
Okay.
and get a chance to show off their hard work and awesome musicianship for their age. You know, they're younger kids, but they're really developing and becoming, you know, their own, you know, amazing musicians. So it's a cool thing to watch.
Yeah.
And they'll play, you know, 2 or 3 pieces before I start. And
what
then
are their instruments, Fred? What do they play?
also guitar.
Oh, also guitar.
Yes,
Okay.
and they're classical students, so they're sort of, you know, they represent this next generation
Yeah.
of musicians carrying on this tradition.
Proud teacher moment, I bet.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm excited. It was Elisa's full credit at EKS,
Yeah.
who, when I mentioned that I would do the concert, she said, "Oh, well, maybe you could have some EKS students." I said, "That's a great idea." So I'm excited to have them play a few pieces before me.
Fun, and fun for their families too, right?
Definitely,
this
yeah, I
is
hope so.
Is this their first public performance, do you know?
Well, they've both performed at many EKS
okay.
recital,
Sure.
you know, but still that's more friends and family
That's true.
and smaller kind of,
Yeah, this
you
is
know,
more of
more
a public
private.
venue, yeah.
Yeah, this is an exciting thing for the public, and it's free and open to the public.
Yep.
You know, I hope folks come out and enjoy some great music, and it is a really fun thing to do.
How did you connect with St. Chrysostom's? I'm curious how that connection happened.
Yeah, actually, so Susan Bill, who's another
Oh, sure.
teacher at EKS, she teaches strings like violin and violoncello. She's the music director at the church.
Ah,
So we actually at EKS, during our end of the semester recitals, we do the concerts at different places, but sometimes we perform at St. Chrysostom. And we actually just had the guitar recital in December, and we played there again.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, man, it sounds so good
It
in
worked,
here.
yeah.
It's a perfect little size. I mean, it's big enough to host a good number of folks, but the sound is really pure and beautiful. So I started speaking with her after that, and I said, you know, could we maybe organize a concert? And she connected me with the father there, and I'm really lucky to again have this door be opened
Yeah.
and hopefully open it to the public
Yeah, well,
too, and have some people come out.
it's right in a neighborhood. Folks could walk,
Yeah.
you know, and there is parking available as well. It's free, as you mentioned. About a 90-minute show, is that right?
Yeah, with intermission and all told, you know, it's a little over an hour.
Okay.
You know, I play 2 halves, and then, as I said, we'll have some opening act. So it'll be a wonderful afternoon, and 4 p.m. to me is the perfect time. You come out, you know, you can get up late on a Saturday and then come out
Yes.
and then get dinner after, what have you.
Sure,
So,
sure.
And I love, you know, one of the things I love most about performing live is engaging with the audience. You know, when I play, of course, you know, the music that I play is instrumental. I'm not singing, I'm not, you know, talking during, but I
Right.
love to give context for the music and some historical pieces or some personal anecdotes. And, you know, again, that here and now and that encounter, anything to kind of bring us together and give us something to really grab onto while we listen and while we share that experience.
Yeah. Will you take questions from folks maybe after? Or?
Definitely.
Okay.
That's what I was saying. I love afterwards, meeting people and hearing their reactions and their favorite pieces, or, oh, this reminded me of something. And during, I haven't opened it up to Q&A during as much, but yeah, I love.
Well, you
to
want to get the show on the road,
engage.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So that's one of my favorite parts, really, about that.
Yeah.
And comparing that to the recording.
Yeah.
It's nice and to work on it and polish something, and then get to release it
Sure.
and hope people listen.
Hope, right,
and enjoy. But there's something different about, we're all in the same place, we share the moment, and then afterwards we can debrief and connect. And
Instant feedback, right?
yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
I hope you have a wonderful time.
Oh, thank you, Joe.
Congratulations on your release and on the concerts.
Thank you so much.
Please come back.
Yeah, I'd love to.
All right, good to
Thanks
talk to
a
you.
lot.
You're
You
welcome. The forecast for you for the rest of the day today. Be beautiful to get outside, actually. Enjoy some sunshine and milder temperatures, around 40 degrees this afternoon. And a pretty nice long holiday weekend, really, coming up. We'll do a little melting tomorrow, low 40s, right around 40 on Sunday with lots of sunshine. President's Day, we're still pretty mild and dry as well. Thanks again to Fred Springer for joining us today on the program.
My pleasure.
Thank you to our crew. Thank you for watching. We're off on Monday, by the way, for President's Day. Join us next Friday. More music. Folks from the Quincy Symphony Orchestra stopping by to tell us about the rest of their concert season. Hope you can join us for that. Meantime, visit our website. It's qatv.org. You'll find all of our latest programs there. There's news, information, video on demand, live streaming, and much more. For all of us here at QATV, I'm Joe Catalano. Have a great week.